Hello, we're going to talk about Australia, about the prehistory, Aborigines, and climate. Okay, we're going to start with the prehistory in Australia. Okay, the prehistory in Australia began for about 8,000 years ago. The people who lived in Australia called themselves Aboriginal people, but these people came to Australia for about 50,000 years ago. Across whole Australia was consisted of sandy deserts, forest-covered areas, and fruitful areas back then. Lake Mungo was one of the deserts that people lived in. Humans lived in Lake Mungo for 100,000 years ago. Scientists, 1699, found two bodies that lived in Australia, Lake Mungo, for almost 50,000 years ago. Mungo Man and Mungo Lady was the name of these two bodies. The first immigration to Australia was probably under the Ice Age time. The Homo sapiens lived in this century, and they were the people who wandered from New Guinea 60 kilometers to Australia. They got there by vehicles, such as boats. But New Guinea and Australia was a country together, because Australia was a continent back then. The most common animals and species were marsupials, lizards, and birds in the prehistory of Australia. Dry climate aroused in Australia, and the dehydrated area led to many major problems, like bad growing period. Instead, they had to crush and make the seeds more of it. They did it by grindstones.
The Aborigines. The first people who lived in Australia were the Aborigines. They came by boat to the continent now called it Australia. Aborigines did not live simple lives and had a lot of flaws. They tried to survive with hunt animals, fish, and build houses. The Aborigines continent was several different races with up to about 250 languages. Their weapons were boomerang and spear. People began to pray and believe in gods. Their religion called the dreaming. The Aborigines liked the art and painted on the walls and stones. People also liked to the music and used the instrument such as didgeridoo. The Aboriginal settlements were wise and coastlines, and nowadays in sea. More people came and dwelt in safety in Australia. It happened to no violence and fighting. All people wanted to help and build houses, make weapons, and grow and hunt for food. The people lived in harsh conditions.
Australia climate. Australia is the sixth biggest country, and the temperature varies in the different places. The temperature can range from below zero in the southern of Australia to extreme heat above 50 degrees in the north side. The temperature zone are summer, autumn, winter, spring pattern. The temperature zone depends on the place in Australia. The temperature zone varies from hinterland of New South Wales to the southwest of Australia.
The weather in Australia is the contrast of the northern hemisphere, because when the earth rotates around the sun and the weather in the northern hemisphere is summer weather, then it means that the northern hemisphere is leading toward the sun. That means that the heat comes towards the northern hemisphere more than the southern hemisphere, and that makes the northern hemisphere warmer. There are three climate zones in the tropical areas of Australia. Equatorial, the tip of Cape York and the Bathhouse and Malavia Island, northern Darwin. Tropical, across northern Australia, including Cape York, the top end of the Northern Territory, land south of the Gulf of Carpentaria and the Kimberley region. Subtropical. The coastline, the coastal and the inland fring from carrying along the Queensland coast and the hinterland to the northern areas of New South Wales, and the coastal fringe north of Perth to Geraldton in Western Australia.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to talk about pictures, about prehistory. Okay, we're going to talk about pictures. Okay, we're going to talk about pictures, about the prehistory, Aborigines, and the climate. Okay, the first picture we're going to see is the bird. The bird was one of the animals who like lived in Australia in the prehistory. So as the wombat, the lizard, the koala, and the kangaroo. And when you're going to talk about the Aborigines, you see here they had. This is the Aborigines kids, and up there is the Homo sapiens that lived in the Australia prehistory. They lived a very long time ago, and the last one is the climate zone of the climate weather. Australia. Okay, the sources we used is ne.se about Australia, Wikipedia, Australian history, and Australia about the weather climate.